The train screeched into Grand Central Terminal like a dying beast, its brakes grinding against the rails with a metallic wail that echoed through the cavernous hall. Timothy Hayes froze mid-stride on the marble floor, his polished loafers skidding to a halt as a ghost from his past materialized through the steam. Alex Rivera, cradling a wide-eyed boy of 4 or 5, whose tousled curls and stormy blue eyes were a mirror image of Timothy's own face staring back from every bathroom mirror since college. "Daddy?" the child whispered, pointing straight at him, and in that single word, the empire Timothy had built crumbled like ash in his trembling fists. Timothy's heart slammed against his ribs, a thunderclap in the roar of arriving passengers, as Alex's gaze locked onto those hazel eyes, once soft with midnight promises, now hardened by secrets and time. "You weren't supposed to see us like this," Alex said, his voice a ragged blade slicing through the din, low enough for only Timothy to hear, yet it carried the weight of every unspoken "I love you" they'd buried under Manhattan's unforgiving skyline 7 years ago. The boy's name was Luca, Alex explained later that evening, over lukewarm coffee in a dimly lit diner off 42nd Street. The kind of place where vinyl booths stuck to your thighs and the jukebox crooned forgotten Springsteen ballads. Timothy sat across from them, his billion-dollar tech fortune feeling like fool's gold in his pocket, fingers drumming the scarred Formica table as if decoding the algorithm of this impossible reunion. Luca colored furiously on a napkin with pilfered crayons, his little tongue poking out in concentration, oblivious to the storm brewing between the two men who'd once mapped each other's bodies like uncharted territories. "You look good, Tim," Alex said, stirring sugar into his mug with a spoon that clinked like a countdown. His hair was longer now, tied back in a careless ponytail that spoke of road trips and rootless years, and faint laugh lines crinkled the corners of his eyes, lines Timothy had never etched there. Still ruling the world from that glass tower in Midtown? Timothy forced a smile, the kind he'd perfected for boardrooms and bad dates, but it cracked at the edges. "Hayes Innovations isn't ruling anything without you ghosting my dreams every night." The words slipped out, raw and unfiltered, tasting like the bourbon he'd nursed alone last weekend. Alex's flinch was subtle, a shadow crossing his face, but Luca looked up, crayon paused. "Uncle Timmy's sad?" the boy asked, and God, that voice, timid yet clear, laced with an innocence that twisted the knife deeper. Alex ruffled Luca's hair, a gesture so tender it made Timothy's chest ache with envy and loss. "Nah, kiddo. Uncle Timmy's just surprised, like when you found that frog in the backyard." He turned back to Timothy, his expression a fortress. "We can't stay long. The bus leaves at dawn. Portland's calling, fresh start. You know, Portland." The word hung between them like smoke from a cigarette Timothy hadn't lit. 7 years ago, that's where Alex had vanished to, leaving a scrawled note on Timothy's fridge. "I can't breathe in this closet anymore. Don't follow." Timothy hadn't. He'd buried himself in code and capital ventures instead, rising from a scrappy startup kid in Brooklyn to the king of AI ethics, all while dating women for the cameras and men in the shadows. Closeted? Hell, he'd built a vault around his heart, reinforced with NDAs and no-strings hookups. But Alex, wild, unapologetic Alex, with his poet's soul and mechanic's hands, had been the crack in the foundation. "Why now?" Timothy leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper that matched the diner's hum. "Why show up at the station with him? Does he couldn't say it. Is he mine?" The boy's eyes, the dimple in his left cheek when he grinned at the waitress's free cookie. It was like staring into a time machine, back to the summer they met at a queer film festival in Bushwick, when Timothy was 28 and terrified, and Alex was the tattooed barista who quoted Ginsberg while pouring oat milk lattes. Alex's jaw tightened, his fingers tracing the rim of his mug. Luca's not. It's complicated. But yeah, he looks like you because life has a sick sense of humor. He glanced at the boy, who was now stacking sugar packets into a wobbly tower. His mom, Elena, she was a friend. One night, after we imploded, she helped me pick up the pieces. But Luca, he's got your fire, Tim. That spark that could light up a blackout in this city. Timothy's mind reeled, fragments of memory colliding like subway cars. Elena vaguely recalled a fierce dyke from Alex's art collective, the one who'd crashed their anniversary dinner with bottles of cheap tequila and stories of Stonewall. A one-night stand? With Alex, the jealousy surged, hot and irrational, even as relief flickered, not mine, then, not a secret son to upend the empire. But the boy's gaze lifted again, locking onto Timothy's with an uncanny intuition. You smell like Daddy's old jacket, Luca said matter-of-factly, and Timothy's world tilted. The diner blurred as laughter bubbled up from Timothy's throat, bitter and broken. Jesus, Alex. You named him after that Luca from the movie we watched on our last night? The one where the boys kiss under the Italian moon. Alex nodded, a ghost of a smile tugging his lips. Yeah. Thought it'd be poetic. Turns out, poetry's just pain dressed in pretty words. They talked then, haltingly, like two men piecing together a shattered vase. Alex had bounced from coast to coast after leaving. Seattle's rainy cafes, Austin's music dives, finally landing in a dusty Oregon town where Elena had offered him a room and a reason to stay sober. Cancer took her 2 years in, swift and merciless, leaving Alex a single dad at 33, scraping by on freelance graphic design and the kindness of strangers. I saw your face on a billboard last month, Alex admitted, voice thick. Hayes Innovations, building tomorrow's trust. Looked like you'd conquered the world. Figured it was time to, I don't know, close the loop. Timothy reached across the table, his hand hovering over Alex's, the air between them charged like the moments before a summer storm. The loops never closed. Not for me. Their fingers brushed electric, familiar, and for a heartbeat, the diner faded, replaced by the loft in Soho where they'd first made love. Rain pattering against floor-to-ceiling windows as Alex traced the constellation of freckles on Timothy's back. Luca yawned, rubbing his eyes with chubby fists, and reality crashed back. Story time, he mumbled, and Alex scooped him up, the boy's head lolling against his shoulder. Not tonight, champ. Let's get you to the motel. To Timothy, walk with us. The streets of Manhattan pulsed around them as they strolled, neon signs flickering like faulty synapses, cabs honking their symphony of impatience. Timothy's penthouse was only blocks away, a sterile fortress of smart tech and silent regrets, but tonight it felt a world apart. At the budget motel on Lexington, its neon vacancy sign buzzing like a hornet's nest, Alex paused at the door. You could come up. Just for a bit. Timothy hesitated, the weight of his life pressing down, the board meeting at dawn, the gala with investors who whispered about his eligible bachelor status, the tabloids hungry for any crack in his facade. But the boy's sleepy trust, Alex's weary hope. It was a lifeline in the dark. "Yeah," he said. "Just for a bit." The room was a time capsule of transience. Sagging bed, threadbare quilt, a single lamp casting long shadows. Luca conked out instantly, curled like a comma in the nest of pillows, his breath soft and even. Alex and Timothy sat on the edge of the mattress, the space between them vast yet intimate, the air thick with unsaid apologies. "I fucked up," Alex murmured, staring at his hands, calloused now from changing tires and chasing toddlers. "Leaving like that. But you were so deep in the closet, Tim. Your family, the firm, I couldn't be the reason it all burned." Timothy's throat tightened. His parents, old money from Boston, Catholics who disowned his uncle for being that way, had drilled success into him like scripture. Coming out, it would have meant losing the seed money, the connections, the illusion of normalcy. "I was a coward," he admitted. "Still am. Some days." Dated Sarah from PR for 2 years. Engagement ring and everything. Called it off last Christmas. Alex's laugh was hollow. "The Ice Queen with the trust fund? Figures." But his eyes softened, searching Timothy's face. "You deserve more than half-lives, Tim." "We both do." Their knees touched, a spark jumping the gap. Timothy's hand found Alex's nape, pulling him close, the kiss tentative at first, a question in the press of lips, then deepening into a floodgate of memory. Alex tasted like coffee and salt, his fingers threading through Timothy's hair with the urgency of lost time. They tumbled back onto the bed, careful not to wake Luca, bodies remembering rhythms long forgotten. The arch of a back, the gasp at a collarbone, the whisper of mine against sweat-damp skin. It wasn't sex so much as resurrection. Fierce, fumbling, fueled by grief and greed. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of cheap detergent and second chances, Timothy traced the tattoo on Alex's forearm. A compass rose, inked the night they'd vowed to navigate anywhere together. "Stay," Timothy breathed into the hollow of Alex's throat. "Let me help." "For him." "For us." Alex stiffened, pulling back just enough to let moonlight sliver between them. "It's not that simple. There's someone back in Portland, waiting." The words landed like a sucker punch, stealing Timothy's air. "Someone, a guy. Marcus. Been good to us. Stable." Alex's voice cracked, eyes averted. "Luca needs that. Not some fairy tale reunion in your ivory tower." Betrayal bloomed, sharp and familiar, the same sting as that fridge note, amplified now by the child's soft snores beside them. Timothy dressed in silence, the rustle of fabric louder than any accusation. At the door, he paused, Luca's drawing clutched in his fist. A stick-figure family under a lopsided sun, 3 hands linked. "Tell him I'm sorry," Timothy said, voice a stranger's. "And that he can call me anytime." Dawn painted the skyline pink as Timothy stepped into the street, the city awakening to another grind. His phone buzzed, texts from his assistant, boardroom in 30. "Don't be late." He hailed a cab, the drawing crumpling in his pocket like a promise unkept. But as the motel shrank in the rearview, a resolve hardened in his gut. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Weeks blurred into a haze of algorithms and alibis. Timothy threw himself into Hayes Innovations like a man possessed, greenlighting projects that pushed the envelope on AI companions for the elderly, therapy bots for trauma survivors, anything to drown the echo of Luca's "daddy" in his skull. Board meetings became battlegrounds, where he sparred with venture capitalists over ethics clauses. His voice steady but his mind adrift, replaying that motel night, Alex's reluctant moans, the betrayal's bitter aftertaste. Nights were worse. His Tribeca loft, with its smart glass walls that frosted at a voice command, felt like a cage. He'd pace the herringbone floors, bourbon in hand, scrolling old photos on a burner phone. Alex at 26, grinning from a Coney Island Ferris wheel, the two of them at Fire Island, shirts off, beers raised against a sunset that promised forever. Then, the newer ghosts. A discreet Google alert he'd set for Alex Rivera Portland, yielding crumbs, a LinkedIn profile for freelance gigs, a Facebook post of Luca finger painting with what looked like backyard mud. Timothy's assistant, Jordan, a sharp-witted queer kid fresh from NYU, noticed the cracks. "Boss, you look like you haven't slept since the Stonewall riots," he'd quip during their morning briefings, handing over a triple espresso. Jordan was out and proud, tattoos peeking from his button-downs, and Timothy envied his ease, the way he flirted shamelessly with the barista downstairs. "If you need to talk, I'm fine," Timothy would cut him off, burying himself in spreadsheets. But one rainy Tuesday, as thunder rattled the windows, Jordan dropped a manila envelope on his desk. Came certified. No return address. Inside, a single photo, Polaroid style, Luca beaming in a tiny raincoat, holding a toy train. Scrawled on the back, he asks about the man with the big building. Missed the city lights. No signature, but Timothy knew. His fingers trembled as he pinned it to the corkboard behind his monitor, a talisman amid the chaos of code printouts. That night, he broke. Dialed a number he'd memorized from Alex's old voicemail, the one that still played a generic greeting. It rang twice before Alex picked up, background noise of cartoons and clattering pots. "Tim? Shit, how'd you? Portland's got shitty caller ID," Timothy lied, heart hammering. "Luca okay?" A pause, then Alex's sigh, weary as the Willamette River. Teething. "Marcus is on a brewery run. Picks up the slack when I'm drowning." The name landed like gravel in Timothy's gut, but he swallowed it. "He drew you something. Sent it last week. Thought it'd. I don't know. Make things less weird." "It's not weird," Timothy said, too quickly. "It's everything." He paced to the window, rain streaking the glass like tears. "Come back. Both of you. I've got space, a brownstone in Brooklyn, away from the paparazzi. Tutors, playdates, whatever Luca needs." Alex's laugh was sharp, edged with pain. "And what about us? You gonna parade me as your reformed wild child at those galas? Or keep me in the closet with the good china?" The accusation stung, true as a slap. Timothy flashed to last year's Pride event, donating a cool $1 million to the parade, posing with rainbow flags while inside, he choked on the hypocrisy. "I'm trying, Alex. Therapy, even. Coming out to the board next quarter. For real this time." Silence stretched, broken only by Luca's distant babble. "That's huge, Tim. But Marcus, he's out. Lives it every day. Takes Luca to story hours at the library. No side eyes. I can't uproot that for For what ifs? What ifs? The phrase echoed as they hung up, leaving Timothy staring at the city lights, each one a pinpoint of isolation. He poured another drink, the amber liquid burning a path to numbness, but sleep evaded him. Dreams came instead. Alex laughing on a beach, Luca building sandcastles with tiny hands that morphed into Timothy's own, then shattering under waves that whispered betrayer, liar, too late. Morning brought a curveball. Jordan burst into the office, eyes wide. You see the headlines? Some whistleblowers leaking about our AI ethics, claiming we're data mining queer users for targeted ads. Stocks dipping 5 points. Timothy's blood ran cold. Hayes Innovations prided itself on privacy, but rumors had swirled for months. Insider sabotage, perhaps from a disgruntled ex. He spent the day in damage control, lawyers on speed dial, press releases drafted in a frenzy. By evening, holed up in a war room with coffee-stained walls, his phone lit up. Unknown number. Portland area code. Hello, Tim? It's Marcus. The voice was calm, Midwestern steady, like a therapist defusing a bomb. Alex doesn't know I'm calling. But Luca, he's sick. Fever spiked last night. Our visit. Docs say it's flu, but he's asking for you. The man from the station. Timothy's chair scraped back. Echoes of boardroom authority forgotten. I'm booking flights. Now. The red-eye to Portland was a blur of turbulence and half-formed prayers. Timothy landed at dawn. The airport's fluorescent hum a stark contrast to Manhattan's grit. Marcus waited curbside in a battered Subaru, broad-shouldered and bearded, with kind eyes that appraised Timothy without judgment. He's tough, like his pops, Marcus said, clapping Timothy's shoulder as they merged into traffic. Alex is a mess, though. Hasn't slept. The house was a craftsman bungalow on a tree-lined street, the kind of place that smelled like fresh bread and stability, worlds away from Timothy's minimalist empire. Inside, chaos reigned. Toys strewn like landmines, a half-eaten PB&J on the counter. Alex looked up from the couch, where Luca dozed fitfully against him, cheeks flushed. What the hell? Tim? You flew out here. Blame your boyfriend, Timothy said, dropping his overnight bag. Marcus chuckled from the kitchen, pouring coffee. Fiancé, actually. And yeah, I did. Kids got a fever dream about trains and tall buildings. The next hours dissolved into domestic rhythm. Timothy on applesauce duty, spooning bites while Luca mumbled about big wheels, his small hand clutching Timothy's thumb with surprising strength. Alex hovered, torn between gratitude and guardrails, while Marcus played the unflappable host, sharing stories of their life hikes in the Columbia Gorge, Luca's first preschool crush on a girl named Riley. As dusk fell, Luca's fever broke, sweat beading his brow like relief. Exhausted, Alex carried him to bed, emerging with red-rimmed eyes. You didn't have to come, he said, sinking onto the porch swing, the air thick with pine and possibility. Like hell I didn't. Timothy sat beside him, their shoulders brushing, a deliberate accident. Seeing him like that gutted me. He's got your stubborn chin, you know. But those eyes, mine. Our ghost. Alex leaned his head back, staring at the stars pricking the Oregon sky. Marcus proposed last fall. Rings in the drawer. I said yes because stability. For Luca. But every night, I dream of subways and your laugh echoing off skyscrapers. Timothy's pulse thrummed. Then don't marry him. Come home. Let me be part of this, us. He cupped Alex's face, thumb tracing the stubble that shadowed his jaw. The kiss ignited slow, smoldering like embers fanned to flame, hands roaming with the familiarity of old lovers and the hunger of new. Marcus found them there, silhouetted against the fireflies. He didn't rage. Instead, he sighed, sinking into the wicker chair across. Knew this was coming. Alex talks in his sleep, your name, Tim. Like a prayer or a curse. The conversation that followed was a minefield. Marcus's quiet hurt, Alex's torn confessions, Timothy's vow to upend his world. By midnight, decisions crystallized. Alex wouldn't leave Luca's side until morning, but Marcus offered a truce. Stay the week. See if this fairy tale holds water. Timothy did. Days unfolded like a road trip montage. Doctor's follow-ups where Luca clung to his hand. Park picnics with peanut butter clouds and kite strings tangling in the breeze. Evenings of board games where Marcus's dry wit disarmed Timothy's defenses. One night, over takeout Thai, Luca crawled into Timothy's lap, whispering, "You're my train daddy now?" The room stilled. Then Alex laughed, tears streaking his cheeks. "Yeah, buddy. He is." But paradise cracked on day 4. Timothy's phone exploded. Texts from Jordan. Scandals blowing up. Whistleblowers you-know-who from college. Claims you're using company funds for personal vendettas. Timothy's ex-roommate, a bitter coder he'd fired years back, outing not just the leak but Timothy's sexuality in a vicious blog post. The closeted king of Silicon Alley. The call from his mother came next, voice iced over Atlantic waves. "Timothy, what is this filth?" Reporters at the door. "Fix it, or we're done." He hung up, world fracturing. Alex found him on the back porch, head in hands. "It's out," Timothy choked. "Everything. The board's calling an emergency vote. Lost endorsements overnight." Alex knelt before him, hands on knees, a supplicant's pose. "Then fight. Or walk away. But don't hide, Tim. Not from this." The betrayal stung deepest from within, years of self-denial weaponized by a ghost from his past. Timothy booked a flight back, promising to return, but doubt gnawed. Could he salvage the empire and still claim this makeshift family? As the plane climbed over the Cascades, Luca's drawing, now laminated, tucked in his wallet, whispered of what was at stake. Portland faded below, but the pull toward it grew, a gravitational shift in Timothy's orbit. Manhattan welcomed Timothy back with open arms and sharpened knives. The headlines screamed from newsstands and timelines. Tech Titan's secret, Hayes outed in corporate sabotage. Pundits dissected his double life. Queer activists hailed him as a martyr. Investors bolted like rats from a sinking ship. He landed in a war zone. His office swarmed with PR sharks, Jordan manning the barricades with fierce loyalty. "They're circling," Jordan briefed him in the elevator, tablet glowing like a battlefield map. "CNN wants an exclusive. Glad's offering support. Your ma called again, voicemail's a doozy." Timothy waved it off, striding to the corner office where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Hudson like a taunting vein. "Kill the interviews. Draft a statement. Full transparency. Diversity audit. My coming out on my terms." He paused, the weight of Alex's words, "Don't hide," anchoring him. "And get me on a call with the board. Now." The vote was a bloodbath. Half wanted his head, citing reputational risk. The rest, swayed by his impassioned plea. This company was built on trust, not tolerance of my truth, held the line. By midnight, he'd retained control, but at a cost. Slashed budgets, forced sabbatical whispers. Alone in the loft, he cracked open a beer, cheap, from the corner bodega, and scrolled to Alex's texts. Luca's asking for train stories. "You okay, cowboy?" "Not yet," he replied, attaching a selfie. Rumpled shirt, defiant grin. "But getting there." "Portland in 2 days?" The affirmative came swift. "Bet." "Marcus says bring lobster rolls." "He's warming to you, the traitor." Timothy's laugh echoed off the exposed brick, a sound foreign yet freeing. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind. Therapy sessions where he unpacked the closet splinters, donor calls to queer nonprofits pledging millions, a viral tweet thread owning his story. "I've hidden too long." Time to build bridges, not walls, likes poured in, but so did the hate, trolls spewing fire, his father's curt email disgrace. "Don't call." He ignored it, packing a duffel with kids' books and hope. The flight to Portland felt like crossing a Rubicon, the aisle seat his chariot. Marcus picked him up again, this time with a bear hug that smelled of hops and honesty. "Heard about the shitstorm." "Respect, man. Takes balls." The bungalow thrummed with life. Luca barreling into Timothy's legs with a squeal. Alex in the kitchen, apron dusted with flour, rolling dough for empanadas. "Witness protection?" Alex teased, kissing Timothy's temple, a casual claim that set his blood singing. Dinner was a revelation. Marcus regaling tales of his microbrewery dreams, Alex's eyes sparkling as he bantered. Luca perched on Timothy's knee, feeding him bites of spicy beef. As the boy crashed early, the three men migrated to the living room, beers in hand, the air heavy with unspoken pivots. "I love him," Marcus said abruptly, nodding at the hallway. "Alex. Always will. But it's not romantic anymore. Hasn't been since you showed up." His smile was wry, tinged with sorrow. "Co-parenting's the goal. If you're in, we're a village." Relief washed over Timothy, mingled with awe. This man, solid as Oregon oak, handing over the reins without a fight. Alex squeezed his hand under the coffee table. Told him about the ring. Put it away months ago. The night deepened into confessions. Marcus's bisexuality, a quiet coming out over IPAs. Alex's guilt, the years of what-ifs that had chained him. Timothy shared his own fractures, the engagement to Sarah as armor, the hookups that left him hollow. "You're my North Star," he told Alex, voice rough. Always were. They made love in the guest room, slow and sacred, moonlight filtering through gingham curtains. Alex's body was a map of changes, stretch marks from holding Luca, scars from bar fights long past, but to Timothy, it was homecoming, the curve of hip, the salt of neck, the murmur of stay against his ear. Dawn brought normalcy. Breakfast chaos. Luca's syrup-smeared grin. But as they bundled into the Subaru for a gorge hike, Marcus driving, Alex shotgun, Timothy and Luca in back, the idol fractured. Timothy's phone buzzed incessantly. Jordan's alerts. A breaking story. Hayes' ex-fiancé speaks. He used me as cover. Sarah's tell-all. Timed for maximum carnage. Fuck. Timothy muttered, screen blurring. Alex twisted around, concern etching his brow. What now? Ghost from Christmas past, Timothy said, voice tight. Sarah's selling our relationship to the highest bidder. Claims I gaslit her into the closet life. Marcus pulled over at a scenic overlook, the river churning below like Timothy's gut. Betrayal's a bitch. But you gonna let it define you? The words echoed Alex's from the porch weeks ago. Timothy pocketed the phone, lifting Luca to his shoulders. Nah. We're hiking. Eagles don't scrape with worms. The trail wound through ferns and firs. Luca's chatter a bomb. At the summit, wind whipping their faces, Timothy pulled Alex aside, the world sprawling below. Marry me, he said. No ring, just raw intent. Not for show. For this, the mess, the magic. Alex's eyes shimmered, hazel depths reflecting the canyon's gold. You're insane. But yeah. God, yes. They sealed it with a kiss. Fierce against the gale, Marcus whooping from afar with Luca on his hip. Joy crested, but dissent brought reality. Voicemails from lawyers, stock dips, a plea from his sister. Mom's spiraling. Tim. Come home. He flew back solo, promising weekly shuttles. Manhattan assaulted him anew. Reporters at JFK. Drones buzzing his building. The board summoned him. Faces grim. Damage control. Hayes. Or we do it for you. Timothy faced them down. Voice steel. No more control. I'm out. Fully. And if that sinks the ship, build a better one. Resignations followed, conservative holdouts fleeing. But allies emerged. Jordan promoted to interim CEO, queer coders stepping up. The company pivoted, launching a Pride in Code initiative, donations surging. Yet betrayal's shadow lingered. Sarah's interview aired, tearful accusations, half-truths twisted into knives. Timothy watched alone, bourbon burning, until a knock shattered the silence. Alex, unannounced, duffel in hand, Luca peeking from a carrier sling. Surprise, Alex said, smirking through exhaustion. Couldn't wait for your empire to crumble without us. Timothy pulled them inside, the loft transforming in an instant. Luca's giggles bouncing off smart speakers, Alex's warmth thawing the chill. They ordered pizza, sprawled on the rug, and for the first time, Timothy felt anchored not to wealth or walls, but to flesh and future. But the past wasn't done clawing back. Late that night, as Luca slept in the master suite and Alex showered, Timothy's door buzzed. Security escorting up. His mother, Evelyn Hayes, pearls clutched like rosaries, face a mask of Boston frost. You've ruined us, she hissed, sweeping in like a nor'easter. The family's name, your father's heart attack last week. Did you know? This perversion. Timothy stood firm, Alex emerging towel-clad, protective. Mother, meet my fiancé. And our son, in spirit. Leave, or I'll have you removed, she faltered, eyes darting to the photos now pinned everywhere, Luca's drawings, Alex's sketches. Son, a crack in the ice. Family, Timothy corrected. The kind that chooses you. She left in tears, the elevators ding a requiem. Alex wrapped arms around him from behind. You okay? Better than ever, but doubt flickered, Had he just severed the last thread to his blood? The engagement announcement dropped like a grenade into the media maelstrom. Tech mogul Timothy Hayes to wed long-lost love in Portland commitment ceremony. No white tuxes or tiered cakes. Just a backyard affair under string lights, Marcus officiating with wry vows, Luca scattering wildflowers like confetti. Timothy's sister flew in, tentative bridge extended. His mother sent a silver frame, empty but inscribed, blood or chosen, you're mine. Progress, fragile as rice paper. Hayes' innovations stabilized under Jordan's helm. Timothy consulting remotely from a hybrid life. Weeks in Portland's green embrace. Weekends conquering boardrooms. Luca thrived. Preschool finger paints evolving into city sketches. His trained daddy stories captivating Alex's freelance clients. But beneath the idol, fissures snaked. Alex's restlessness. The poet's itch for wanderlust clashing with Timothy's rooted empire. Timothy's nightmares of loss, waking sweat-soaked to Alex's steady breaths. Climax brewed on a crisp October eve, leaves turning the bungalow into a postcard. Timothy arrived late, flight delayed by East Coast gales, bearing takeout from his favorite dim sum spot. The house hummed oddly. Marcus in the kitchen, unusually somber, Luca tucked early. Alex waited in the living room, face drawn, a letter in hand. "We need to talk," Alex said, voice a tight wire. Timothy's stomach plummeted, echoes of that fridge note 7 years prior. The letter was from Elena's estate lawyer, a codicil to her will, unsealed post-Luca's 5th birthday. "Guardianship clause," Alex explained, words tumbling like rocks. "If anything happens to me, accident, relapse, she wanted you, Tim. Named you co-guardian. Said Luca needed your strength. Even if we weren't together." Timothy's breath hitched. "Me? Why?" Elena knew. "About us. The night she and I. It was grief, not love. She told me once, that Hayes boy's got a heart bigger than his wallet. Give him a chance." Alex's eyes glistened. "But there's more. She left evidence, DNA test from when Luca was born. To protect him, in case questions arose." The envelope yielded a sealed vial, papers crisp. Timothy's hands shook as he slid it open. Results, irrefutable. Probability of paternity, 99.7%. Luca was his biologically, undeniably. The room spun, joy and terror colliding. All this time. "He's mine." Alex nodded, tears carving paths down his cheeks. "I suspected. Elena confirmed it before she died. Kept it quiet to let you build your life. But seeing you with him, it broke me open." Marcus knew too, why he stepped back. Betrayal's echo resounded, not from malice but mercy withheld. "You let me think he wasn't," Timothy whispered, hurt lancing deep. "Carried this alone? Had to," Alex choked. "You were climbing mountains I couldn't touch. Didn't want to chain you with this." The argument erupted then, raw and ragged. Accusations flying like shrapnel, selfish, coward, untrusting. Timothy stormed the porch, fists clenched, the river's murmur mocking his rage. Marcus followed, beer extended. "He's scared, Tim. Of losing you to the city, like before. But that kid, he's yours in every way that counts." Timothy deflated, the fight leaching out like air from a punctured tire. Inside, Alex huddled on the couch, shoulders shaking. "I'm sorry," Timothy murmured, kneeling. "For the hiding, the half-measures." But no more secrets. They clung then, sobs mingling, the letter a bridge between wounds. "Marry me still?" Timothy asked, forehead to forehead. "Always," Alex breathed. "But promise no towers. We build our own." The ceremony came weeks later, intimate and imperfect. Vows exchanged under a maple aflame with autumn, Luca in a tiny suit, Marcus toasting with craft cider. Timothy's coming-out speech went viral, not from a stage, but a heartfelt op-ed. Love isn't a liability. It's the code. Donations flooded queer youth shelters. Invitations poured for speaking gigs. Winter settled, blanketing Portland in hush. Timothy sold the loft, funneling proceeds into a foundation for LGBTQ+ foster kids, Luca's legacy. They called it The Boy, beaming at the name. Mornings blurred. Snowmen in the yard, Alex's sketches framing the fridge, Timothy coding by the fire while Luca helped with blocks. Yet humanism's quiet pulse beat beneath. Marcus dating a barista with wanderlust eyes, co-parenting seamless as breath. Timothy's mother visiting, tentative hands on Luca's curls, thawing over pie. Conflicts resolved not in grand gestures but grace. The betrayal of silence forgiven in shared lullabies. The empire's fall birthing empathy's rise. One spring dawn, as cherry blossoms dusted the backyard, Timothy woke to Alex's whisper. "Look!" Luca stood at the window, pointing at a robin, his blue eyes, their eyes wide with wonder. "Family," the boy said simply, and in that word, the hook's echo faded. They'd arrived, not at perfection, but presence. In America's vast tapestry, 2 men and a child wove their thread, dramatic in scars, emotional in embraces, romantic in stolen glances, humanistic in the choice to stay. The station's ghost had led them here, to a station of their own making, tracks diverging, yet hearts aligned. Years later, at Luca's college send-off, NYU, full circle, Timothy would clasp Alex's hand, watching their son board the train, curls tamed but spirit wild. "Worth every derailment," Alex would murmur. And Timothy, silver threading his hair, would nod. "Every one."